In this video, I want to know if you are, like me, a big rabbit hole person. I've been one of these kind of people my entire life, and it's always kind of worked to my advantage in my work life, and I'll explain a little bit about that. So I know some of you know me and some of you are new here. I'm Helen. I'm an art hobbyist. I am a longtime magazine editor and writer, freelance writer. So back in the day, I used to work for a lot of different Canadian magazines in the sort of ending heyday of the magazine world. This is Merit's Minimalist Foundation Stick, by the way, in the color ochre. I have done every job at magazines, but as I was getting older there and just getting more established in my career, I got to freelance write about lots of different topics, and I also got to assign work, assign articles, and even just write articles and blog myself, because I also became a website editor. So this was such a great combination for all these little interests that I would get, because I love getting down like a reading rabbit hole. Less so actual activities, we'll come to that. And I was really able to leverage this personality trait, right? For the places that I worked, I was able to make money freelance writing about my niche interests. Whatever I would be interested in, I would send out a lot of different queries and like get assignments and write about those things that I really cared about in the moment. Or if I was an editor, and because I mostly work for generalist women's lifestyle magazines, there was often a lot of overlap, right? Of my interests as a woman of a certain age and my audience, which was women. So I worked for Canadian Living magazine for quite a long time. And if you're an American, if you're familiar with like Good Housekeeping or like Red Book, it's one of those kind of general interest women's magazines with like a lot of cooking and like lifestyle advice and health articles and all of that. So I just had a lot of leeway to explore these different interests that held my attention for just long enough for me to also kind of exploit them, if that makes sense. Because as much as I like rabbit holes, I do get tired of them usually eventually. So I had this great outlet where I'd be making money for that as well and doing my job. So it was perfect. It was such a perfect match for my type of personality, where I am always getting interested in things and I want to share that, I guess, mini obsession with other people. So fast forward to today, I'm not an editor at a magazine anymore. I'm still a freelance writer, so that part of my career continues. And once in a while I get to like indulge in these mini obsessions by sharing them with people, but not as much as I used to. I think you know what happened to magazines. We're here on YouTube, right? Basically, instead of reading magazines as we might have done in yesteryear. Okay, I promise I'll explain how this plays into this theme. My lips are starting to get dry on account of the weather. Let me just go back here and get something for my lips. So the way that this plays into what's going on here and the theme of change and how art has changed my life and how making these videos have changed my life and how they all kind of go together is, once I lost that outlet of being a daily magazine editor, where I'm just always assigning stories, always writing stories, always blogging, my world is just creating articles, content, assigning, that kind of stuff, I was kind of at a loss. But then came my YouTube channel. So I have two YouTube channels. On my OG channel, as I like to call it, which is called Helen Avery, I've been sort of cycling through all these areas of hyper focus over the last 7+ years. And it's a really great outlet for me. And then I've got a second art channel, which is Helen Avery Media. I know the names are very close. I don't know that I'll always keep the names like that. But yeah, I just have these amazing outlets. And I never would have had the second outlet of having an art channel at all if I didn't just one day wake up and decided that I really wanted to do art. It is so random. I am not an artistic person. I was not like, some people were very good at drawing and very talented and took art classes in school and the high school level and all of that kind of stuff. That was never me. Never me. I could draw a stick figure and like that was about it. Right? I don't know what happened this year, but my eyelids are starting to droop just that little bit more, and eyeliner is so difficult. So never really artistic, definitely always a creative, a career creative. I love to make things. Writing has been such a part of my life for the longest time. If I wasn't writing every day, I just felt like part of me was not alive. I don't even know how to describe it. It was just fundamental. It was just like the water I'm swimming in, the air that I breathe. Writing was part of that. But one day I woke up and it's like, I just had a different itch I wanted to scratch. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm like, I want to start making stuff. I don't want to just be sitting here watching TV or Netflix or YouTube for hours. I want to leave a legacy of something. Like I want to physically make something. Sorry, that's probably a better way to express it. I want to physically make something. I have 2 Merit blushes I'm going to put on now. These are just really easy to use, especially on top of the Merit stick. I promise this is not a makeup vlog, but if I don't tell people what this is, they'll ask. So I may as well just say it. I just wanted to spend my time making art. I'm just like, I just woke up and I was interested in art. I swear it was as simple as that. I don't even know how. It wasn't like watching a YouTube video that inspired me or something. It just was like, I want to start crocheting and I want to start to draw. And I maybe want to crochet things that I learned how to draw. Well, I realized that's actually not so easy to do for a couple of reasons. One, I have no drawing skills, or I had no drawing skills. I've worked on them a lot daily since April 2024, which is when this idea started to percolate in my mind. And I started to crochet. So that's what happened. April 2024, I started to learn how to draw and I started to learn how to crochet, thinking that the two of those could work well together. They didn't, because I found out something, which is that I hate crocheting. I hate it. I don't like it. You know why? The counting. I don't like counting stitches. And I know that, you can do this, you can do that. There's like hacks, there's like little devices you can buy, there's like little stitch markers. I know that there's hacks because I'm not the only one. I don't know what to say though, other than the fact that one, I kept messing it up, which is probably normal for crochet beginners. And I promise also, this is not about crochet. I'm going to end this part of it very quickly. I wasn't feeling it. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm sure you've picked up something, right? If you're artsy or craftsy or hobbyish, you might grab something and just be like, I don't know. And also, I just kept messing it up. And I just resented the fact that I would have to go back and fix it. And it kind of isn't that much deeper. I kind of just gave up on the crochet after about maybe a month of it. Maybe that was not long enough. I'm sure those of you who do a lot of crochet will have opinions on that. But what I did do then was like, think really hard. Okay, if I don't like counting stitches, I don't care that much about making garments. And by the way, I have crocheted before. I've crocheted my husband a beautiful scarf a number of years ago when I kind of had more patience for it, or I don't know, I was just maybe very motivated to get that project done. I was just not that interested. So I gave it a good think about maybe what would be better for me and my personality. And I came upon embroidery. So my friends, I have this whole booming art channel that's mostly about watercolor, but the way that I got to watercolor was actually through embroidery, which is, they don't seem related at all. And I guess they're kind of not. And the drawing, I knew that I wanted to keep drawing. That's actually the one thing that I have been doing consistently since April 2024. I've been trying to improve my drawing skills every day. And interestingly, that's kind of the thing I think I enjoy the most still. And the watercolor is a nice adjunct to that. And then embroidery is its own thing. And yeah, it's just this beautiful collection of fulfilling practices, and they're quite different. And the time scale of them is so different that I find them to be perfect together. Not to be a creep, but I see this girly all the time waiting for her Uber. She just stands right there and she must catch her Uber to go to work or something like that because she's out there. Yeah, she's waving. Okay, and one of my neighbors is leaving. I'm such a snoop, okay? City life, right? This is what you do. You just are always kind of like attuned to the movements of your neighbors. It's pretty funny. So what ended up happening is sort of embroidery was the thing that brought me to watercolor. And it's been such a huge additive to my life. I can't believe I never started this earlier. I'm kind of not mad at myself. I mean, how could I have known until you experience it? But how much it would bring to my life and how much it would change my life for the better. I'm just so glad that I picked up that embroidery needle. And I'll just show you a little bit here in my dining room / studio. I like to call it my studio, but like, let's be honest, it's also mostly just my dining room. Okay, I'll show you what it is that kind of got this whole thing started off, including my art channel. And it started with just the simple act of needle and thread. Yeah, I mean, I don't talk about this stuff that much, but it is an embroidery practice. So I started off making these 3, and then I moved on to getting some free patterns from DMC. And then I made that Evil Eye, this sort of Downton Abbey-esque thing. But the thing that this Downton Abbey-esque house, I guess you would call it. But the thing I'm genuinely the most proud of that I love looking at so much is this embroidery of Frida Kahlo that, my goodness, took me so many hours, so many hours. Like, I think when people see embroidery, they don't realize that probably just this flower here in her hair was probably 5 hours alone, right? So you get an idea of the incredible amount of time it takes for embroidery. So that's what leads me to watercolor. So the way that I got involved in watercolor, and sorry, I know there's probably a lot of creaking sounds here. I live in an old Edwardian house circa, I think 1912, and it is got the original floors, and my goodness, do they creak all the time. So hopefully you're not overhearing too much of that. But the way that I got started with watercolor is that I found that the embroidery, as beautiful as it was, I didn't always have a sense of having any momentum or having any completion. And I just found that I wanted to work on something that was also a little bit quicker, that would also work with the drawing that I was also getting interested in learning to do. Because you can draw something and then embroider it, and that whole process will be 10 hours. You know what I mean? So I wanted to draw something. So I started with just drawing, and I thought it could be nice to make art out of this as well, because I love color. You wouldn't know it from the all black outfit I'm wearing today, but I do love color. So that's kind of how I started embroidering, right? It was quite almost as simple as that. I just woke up one day and I was like, okay, we want to do something in the needle arts. And I started with crochet, didn't like it. I was like, you know what really suits me? You don't count stitches when you hand embroider. Let's try that. So I just started with some kits that you see right there, fell in love with the practice. I'm like, yep, this is it. This is the one for me. But then quickly found that that is so laborious that I wanted something else as well. Also because I was getting like tiredness, right? Just overuse here, because I am, again, a rabbit hole person. So you'll have to let me know if this happens to you as well, where my arm was getting sore because I was just going too hard at it. And that's how the watercolor came in. So that must be one of the weirder ways to get into watercolor. But now I'm just so glad that I picked it up, because it is so much fun to just daily have something quick that you can do and feel like you had a little win, even if it's not making these like journal entries. You know, even if it's not that, I'll sit down and just dabble a bit. Sometimes I'll just make swatches, and that's also been fun to have an art channel as well, because I just sometimes like to play and just make swatches, right? And then it's so fun to have an outlet for them. It really is. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And it's really changed my life. It really has changed my life. It brings me so much pleasure, even if I'm not filming or trying to like show everybody what I'm doing. It's just a great way to fill up time without being on my screen. If nothing else, that has been the hugest game changer for me, because if I wasn't doing this, I was like consuming media instead. And I always prefer to be someone who's making things. It's just a big part of what drives me. And that used to be, you know, magazine articles, writing, journaling by hand, which I still do as well. I've never been that much into like writing fiction. Maybe that's something I'll explore. I do write a little bit of poetry still. But it's just wonderful to have these hobbies that have also brought me more community. So that's another huge way that art has changed my life. I'm here all alone on a Saturday. My husband and my son are not around, so I have a peaceful house to myself. And I'm just going to spend it, of course, not doing anything fun for myself, rather tidying up. I'm sure that that's relatable to you moms out there. So what happened as part of my art practice, I'm just going to wipe off the table, is that it also brought me community. And I really was not expecting that. So if you're in Canada, I urge you to buy Nature Clean products. Like, they're such a great company who makes such great stuff. You've probably already heard of them or seen them and maybe even use them yourself. They do like laundry. They do everything, basically, all cleansers. And it's just like one of these natural brands. And usually I kind of roll my eyes a little bit at that marketing of it all. But it's just nice to support Canadian. And their scents are really nice. They're never too overpowering. This is their natural multi-surface cleaner in lavender tea tree. And it smells so good. It smells really good. So one benefit I was absolutely not expecting was to hook myself into a culture that's highly social. And that is so good for me. So what happened with the embroidery is, I don't know, like one day I was looking in my neighborhood Facebook page and someone had posted that there is like a crafting group, like a fiber arts social circle basically going on for free at a public library near me, walking distance, on a weekday. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would be really good for me. There's nothing taught there. You just bring your crafts and it's just like what we would have called it when we were at Canadian Living is, because we always had knitting pages in that magazine, we would have called that a stitch and bitch or a bitch and stitch, which is kind of salty language for what it is, which is a bunch of women hanging out, chatting, and working on their projects. So I just got the gumption to go, which doesn't take a lot for me. I'm not like a top level introvert. I'm kind of an ambivert, like I'm a bit extroverted and I'm a bit introverted as well. I definitely have aspects of both. I do not like being alone for too long like that. That does not float my boat. And I know some people can spend days in their house and not really being super social and seeing other people. That's not me. I see my friends every week. If you follow my vlogs, you know that oftentimes I'll document that, like we'll go out for lunch together and I've done art classes with one of my closest friends. And anyway, I like to see people. That's just who I am. Yeah, I started going to these fiber arts group, I should say, together. And I've just been meeting the most wonderful collection of people. It's not even just women. I thought really it would be primarily women, but you know, we've had a couple guys attend too. So that's been kind of cool. So recently, this is kind of a funny story about preconceptions about who does fiber arts, but recently this young guy bopped in and he looked like literally like a university student. He was like well dressed and I thought, oh, he must be like just maybe coming downstairs to check out what this room looks like or something by accident. He had a backpack on. He literally looked like he just came from University of Toronto, like physics classes or something like that. Doesn't he sit down and he starts chatting to our young librarian who runs the program? And I thought, oh, maybe they're just like coworkers or friends, or maybe they're both university students for all I know. And he's going to chat with her because he found out she's sitting down here with us, and then he's going to go. Doesn't he pull out a whole crochet project and he's sitting there crocheting with us and just like kikiing and giggling with the rest of us? It was so funny. So never try and guess who does what kind of art. That's one thing I've learned. So that's one really fun social activity that art has brought into my life. And then there's another one that I've been dabbling with, but having some problems with. So I'll tell you about that. So in a very weird spot in my kitchen, I have this little powder room, which I am grateful for. Do not get me wrong. It's great to have a little washroom, bathroom. Well, it hasn't got a bath in it. Washroom, I guess we'll call it. It's nice to have a little area where you can use the toilet on this main floor, the ground floor of my home. So I used to use the Scrub Daddy. Have you ever used one of these? It's like a degradable sponge. I think it's just cellulose. So after it's done its life in the kitchen, I just relegate it to the bathroom or powder room use instead. Because this sink needs a good scrub down after a week of use. This got really famous on TikTok during the pandemic. If you remember the big cleaning obsession, I think everybody kind of went through at some point. And TikTok also exploded. I'm not on TikTok very much anymore. I do have an account there, and I have a couple viral videos when I was into making videos about fashion, like another one of my rabbit holes, fashion history. And I got so deep into that rabbit hole that I was almost even thinking about going to get a master's degree at a university in New York City so that I could become like a museum conservator of like fashion history, like garments. Sorry, what I meant to say is like old garments, because you really learn how to take care of older textiles and stuff. And so that was a little bit of the genesis of me kind of thinking a lot about fiber arts and textile. And I have a long personal history of that, like in my family as well, which I don't know, maybe is another story for another day. But to pull back on the thread that I was talking about earlier, Okay, scrubbing is all well and good, but I do need to get out a cloth. Pulling on a thread that I was starting to bring up earlier was how I'm not only just in that fiber arts group, I also started urban sketching like very early, like late spring, early summer. And that was so much fun. We went to University of Toronto, which is the university that I went to, so I know the campus quite well. And we just had a blast of a time, just like sitting around and sketching things. But that location had so much going for it. And they haven't had a location as good as that since. So I haven't gone to join them for a variety of different reasons. One is that it's always on the week, not always, usually on the weekend and around now. Like, well, not now, but like right after lunch. And like, that's kind of still my family time. Like that's, you know, one of my husband's only 2 days off work. My son has stuff that he's up to. We do things together. We want to go places together. And it kind of is during that time slot, but that's actually not really the thing. The other thing is that often these places that they've been picking have been like not super accessible for me because I don't really want to have to drive and look for a parking spot downtown or wherever to meet up with the urban sketchers. I don't really know anybody that well yet, so I don't have like a connection socially to anybody really there. But it is a great activity, right? You're outside, you're getting fresh air, it's social without being too social. You don't have to strike up friendships and be awkward. Everybody has a task. And they're just in this great group of like-minded people. There's safety in numbers, etc. But the problem is that sometimes the locations are too obscure for me to get to easily. It would just be like a lot of travel that I kind of don't want to do. Like I don't want to add 45 minutes times 2 to go to like an urban sketching session and thus take up the entire day. But not just that, it's the washroom access, people. I've talked about this on one of the videos on my art channel. If I can't get to a washroom, like I don't want to be gone for 4 hours out of the day. I know that that's TMI, but it is a real deterrent, especially as a woman. Like you can't just go anywhere you want. You have to find an actual public washroom. So at University of Toronto, there were like university buildings, and inside those buildings, some of them are open to the public, and they have washrooms that you can use. No problem. It was also on the subway line, just a few stops from my home. Also no problem. So that to me was like chef's kiss perfect. If they ever go there again, I am so going. But sometimes they'll go to like a bar at like some part of the city that I don't live in, or sometimes they'll be like, they pick amazing places. Don't get me wrong. It's just the barrier of entry for me is a little high. And I won't go in the winter, and I think you can probably figure out why, which is like I am averse to freezing to death. I have a thyroid condition, which means I already can't really regulate my body temperature super well. And so the idea of being out there in the cold, as some of them do, not the coldest of the cold, like not the super snowy season, but some of the other times of the shoulder seasons of it being cold in the air, they'll still be outside and I can't sit for 2 hours like with my fingers freezing. But sometimes they pick like indoor-ish locations. So I don't know, I gotta be a little bit more open-minded because it is something I think will really help to level up my skill. But I haven't found my stride with that yet. And again, I'm always like cognizant of these other issues that play into it. I just almost would like to have a break-off group of my own and have it like on a Wednesday afternoon, because I work from home and I think a lot of other people these days too, so I don't know. I don't know how that would fly. Maybe I should just make an unofficial group of my own. So I've just made a little 11's drink for myself, which is just this instant cappuccino. I don't know if you have these. It's the Nescafe cappuccino. You just pour water over it because at 11, I don't know, I'm tired and I want to take a bit of a break. And the other thing I'm going to do is make my son, who's here now, a hot chocolate. So I'm just going to get some milk on the go for him. Do you know in this part of Canada, we use bags for our milk? Yes. Ugly, but efficient. I wanted to find an example of what I was telling you about. Of course, that's empty. I need to get another one. In terms of an article that I've written that is kind of one of those rabbit holes that I was talking to, and I found one that I wrote, and the date on it is April 12th, 2024, about quitting my garden because I'd gotten into this deep rabbit hole about like maybe wanting to take my grass out and doing something more natural with it, which I didn't ultimately end up doing. But the cool thing was, you know, I had this idea. I'm like, I want to see if I can sell this article. And I did, and I got paid for it, which is kind of cool. And you can see that article too. Let me see. I pulled it up on my phone to double check that it is still there. Yeah, so it's called Why I'm Quiet Quitting My Garden by Chatelaine.com. I'll drop a link down below in the description, and if I forget, please do remind me. But it's kind of funny. You can read through my experience there. Okay, speaking of gardens, I'm just gonna sneak down to mine and see what the weather is like out today. Oh, it's nice. No, we're into the fall now, deeper into the fall, and I think that this is gonna be one of the last nice days for hanging some laundry out. So I've done some sheets, and I'm gonna, take advantage. But I can feel that the air is getting so much more crisp. I'm balancing you actually on top of my barbecue of all things. So this is the aforementioned lawn that made it into the story. And I'm just finishing up my coffee out here on this beautiful, crisp, perfect fall day. Yeah, I just wanted to have a bit of fresh air. It's important to step outside every day. I really do believe that for my personal mental health. Oh, hear a plane. See a plane going overhead. I'm in a flight path, so if you hear my videos and you often hear that in my backyard, I apologize. I'm far from the airport, but somehow I'm under the planes. Just a bit of light breeze. Oh, what a perfect day. I love just taking a moment to be outside. I wish that I brought my sketchbook with me though, but subject matter is starting to dwindle because my favorite thing is bright summer flowers, and they've peaked and they're dying now. But there are other little fun nature things that you can find too. The other day I was at a park near me and I saw these beautiful red leaves, and then that sort of just sparked a whole video on it that was fun. Every time of year there is something beautiful, but for me there's something really special about spring and summer. Journaling, nature journaling outside, I'm so inspired. And then it gets a lot harder for me the rest of the year. You know what, why don't I just take a seat for a second on, again, probably one of the last occasions I'll be able to be out here without a lot of extra gear like clothes and all that on. Yeah, so this is my city backyard with a very unattractive chain link fence behind me. But considering this is like a really noisy area, like I'm in Midtown Toronto, hectic area, restaurants galore just on the other side of me there. This is such a little oasis, and the grass actually sequesters a lot of the pollution and the noise, and I've really enjoyed it as just a little space to walk around, think. It would be nice to turn it into like beautiful wildflowers and stuff like that, but I still am at the point where I enjoy it. My son likes to come in here too sometimes. It's just like his basketball is always lying around. Sometimes you see that in the frame. So I'm kind of glad I didn't dig it out, even though I know there are better alternatives. But anyway, that wasn't what I wanted to talk about. What I thought I would just mention briefly is just this interesting dichotomy that I've noticed between when people catch me sketching and painting. Oh my gosh, you guys are awfully crooked. I apologize. Let me see if I can straighten you out there. Whoa. I don't think I made that any better. There's this interesting dichotomy between when I am drawing and painting versus when I'm doing embroidery. Like when people see me doing embroidery, I don't think that my family anyway, and just onlookers, are super impressed with that. It's so interesting. And I think that's because we associated with this like maternal vibe of like needlecraft, of like grandmothers, of like older women. Nobody bats an eye. In fact, they ignore me. It's like I'm not even there. Once at a restaurant, I had a woman, like an elderly woman, come over and and chat with me about it. And that's the only time I've had someone remark on me embroidering in public. But if I were to be drawing or watercoloring, again, just so you know, and if you're like embarrassed about possibly doing it outside, you don't get like completely random strangers approaching you. Maybe if you were like a young, hot girl, you probably would. But the crowd I draw, being like a middle-aged woman, are like gentle retirement age people out for a stroll because they're the only ones paying attention to what people are doing. Young people are like in their phones or they're chatting with their friends, like they just don't care. But I say all this to mention that, or I bring this all up because there's a real reverence for if you draw and if you paint that does not exist if you're someone who embroiders instead. Like the embroidery, I don't think anybody looks at that as like any kind of fine art skill. But when you're painting, especially when you have that brush in your hand, that's immediately considered to be very elevated. And the embroidery is considered to be very like, domestic. I really don't know how else to describe it. And yeah, there's just this interesting cultural difference in how the two of them are perceived and the level of respect each of them garner. I'm fine with that. It's just something that I've noticed. Just on a more historical level, I know that oil paint is always more revered. It's considered a finer art than watercolor. And a lot of that is just through the years, the masters have painted in oil, Rembrandt, you name it. And for a very long time, watercolor was considered more of, I'm not going to say a woman's art, but more lending itself to women who are also very heavily in the domestic sphere. I don't know, I'm kind of dancing around how I'm saying this, but I think you understand what I'm saying. In that, watercolor is portable. Watercolor is affordable. You can take it with you. You don't, if you're wearing the beautiful gowns of yesteryear, you don't need a whole new smock because you definitely have to cover up when you're wearing oil paint, lest you get it on your beautiful clothing. So you just generally don't get as messy when you watercolor. Your hands don't get as smudged. You can flip between things. You know, you could paint a layer of watercolor, tend to whatever needs to be done domestically, and then come back to your watercolor. Oil is not quite like that. You need to be much more immersed for a longer time in the process. That's my historical understanding of some of the differences between the two of them. Now, I can be wrong. I would love to hear your take on that if you have one, or perhaps not. Oh, and while we're saying that, I haven't done my whole thing where I ask you to like, consider subscribing, drop me a comment, even if it's just an emoji, that's cool too. That helps give me a little boost here, because this is a little different from the usual video that I make. So I'm curious to see if any of you are watched to this point, and if you have, if you would just say hi, that way I'll know. Thank you. All right, my coffee's nearly gone. Time to get on with the rest of my day. Hopefully that will include some art. That's the thing about the weekend. It kind of gets away from you really quick if you don't make time to sit down and do the things art-wise, hobby-wise, that you're intent on doing. You can get carried away in other errands instead. Okay, hopefully this is my last chore of the day. I know the Saturday is supposed to be a clean-up kind of day for those of us who work, and those of us who don't. It's just traditionally a day for cleaning. I'm very over it though. I have about 2 good hours in me, and then I just am pretty toasted. Okay, I like to hang those mats there because they're too heavy for the line. I'm one of the last people that I know that have a clothesline. They've really fallen out of favor, but I find the process something that kind of forces me to get outside during the day, and that is not a bad thing. I don't mind. I think if I did mind, I wouldn't come out and do it. So I'm gonna put a nice load of whites out, and I think this is probably the last time I'm gonna be able to do it, although maybe we'll get some more good days. I suspect not though. This point of the year is usually where it tips over and it's just, you don't have the sun and the warmth for it. So you can hang them and they'll still be wet hours later, which is not what we want. In that case, I will just move to using my dryer. On days like this though, it's just an extra chance to be out in the fresh air. I love being outside, I really do. I'm not an indoor cat, not in the least. I just wish we had a bit of a milder climate in the winter. That would make it perfect for me, because this to me is ideal. Oh my gosh, imagine if every day could be like 20 degrees. Well, I guess it could. You know, I've been to San Diego in the summer, and it is, sorry, not in the summer, in the winter, and it is 20 degrees off in there in the winter. Celsius, sorry guys, not Fahrenheit. I know a lot of you use Fahrenheit, and I don't know Fahrenheit very well. I do apologize, but you know, mild spring, summer temperatures with some sun, I guess, is what we're talking about. My favorite kind of weather, I think, especially as I get older. I wish I could do embroidery outdoors in all kinds of weather, but I can't, you guys. And this past summer was especially difficult for me because inside my house is not bright enough for me really to get the enjoyment I want to out of embroidery, because it strains my eyes. I love being outside, but we had successive heat waves that made it so unpleasant. I shouldn't complain about the past, that's in the past now. And I will just enjoy hanging these up on this beautiful fall day. It's so lovely out here. That's pretty much it. Just gotta connect these, lift this lower one up a bit. Phew. Lunch is an absolutely fabulous set of leftovers, mostly from Nando's where we were dining yesterday. You can see some napkins that I grabbed, but I just made a fresh salad to go with it. We've even got the fries. Oh, and I have just some other leftovers to just make it that wee bit healthier, I guess. And then Killian, my son, is getting a sweet potato. On account of the lovely weather, I'm gonna do a little outing that I wouldn't normally do on a Saturday. On Sundays, I always go for a nature walk. That's my dedicated nature walk day. But the weather's gonna be bad tomorrow and it's lovely as we saw today, so I'm gonna pack up. Of course, really all I need is my running shoes, I guess, technically. A pair of sunglasses, I better not forget that. But I like to use my little Herschel little bag here. Herschel is a Canadian company. And so this is the perfect size to pop in my Hahnemuhle notebook that I've been nature journaling in for the last month. This is the thing I've really been enjoying to do. Lately, I've kind of cut back on a lot of the bigger paintings for now. So I'm gonna pop this in here. Then I'm gonna also pop in, and it just fits, right? I can also pop in, because I don't paint outside anymore. I don't have the patience, I don't like being without access to a washroom, but sometimes I will sketch if I see something really pretty and I want to capture it in the moment and the weather is nice. So to that end, I bring a kneaded eraser and I always make mine into these tube shapes, but I mean, you could make it, it's kneadable, right? Which means it's squishy and you could shape it, it's like Play-Doh. You can shape it whatever form you like, but I always like to make it into a worm, basically. And then I always bring this Bic pen with me. Well, not always, but I often bring this Bic pen just because it's got the, you know, you can push the nib back down so it doesn't get broken when you travel with it. Like that. And let me just find my sunglasses, which I've now misplaced. And I think I actually have to bring the pair that I don't like as much because I think maybe I put them upstairs. And I'm not willing to do that now, but I am going to, grab a pair of sunglasses and we're gonna go for a walk. Okay, could not find the sunglasses that I prefer, so I've got these dark ones on, and I'm trying to walk kind of quickly because I want to get my heart rate up a bit as well while I'm out here. Something you don't know about me, I exercise every day, or maybe you do if you're a long-time watcher of my videos. I try and get in some exercise every day, and I count a nature walk as exercise. It's windy out here, guys, so hopefully the audio is okay. My neighborhood farmers market is finishing up because it's after lunch and I missed it entirely, as I always do. I just completely get sidelined with other things. I would like to come someday, but I'm always just intending to, and I just don't make it down in time. And you know, today is no exception to that. You know what, maybe next weekend I've got to make a better effort before the really cold weather comes to at least come once. I haven't come all summer. Oh, but you know what, I'm already captivated by these cosmos. Look at this. Oh, it's nice that they're still going strong. Look at that. Okay, they haven't packed up yet. Very nice. Pretty. This is the front of someone's garden, and I love that these flowers are just hanging in, but barely. They have seen better days, but there's something beautiful in these faded blooms as well. We're now entering somewhere called Wychwood Park, which is apparently Toronto's first heritage conservation district, according to this little plaque here. So this is a gated community, but not really, but these are the gates, but they can close these gates if they want to, but they don't. But this is technically private property, but you can walk through here and you can drive through here too. But back in the days, this was a gated community. And I say back in the days, I don't mean like 10 years ago, I mean like early 1900s. These houses were built to be in a very exclusive enclave. But what I like about it is it's just this little hidden gem in the city where you can escape. All I hear is wind, leaves rustling, the sound of me crunching a branch, and birds chirping. It's just this beautiful escape in the middle of the city. Here's a beautiful example of a craftsman style house, which is common to the area. Pretty modest, all things considered, but with this beautiful little natural garden path area with these, I want to say they're roses. Yeah, I think that those are miniature roses. There are no sidewalks here, so you really do feel like you're in a wooded enclave, which I guess you are. There's a little bit of woodland around here. And these beautiful English style, almost cottagey looking homes. I do feel a little bit like I've transported to the year 1920. There's no one around, which is incredible for such a busy city. But there are people. There's just no one around me right now, but there are definitely people walking around, a lot of people walking their dogs, people strolling. I feel alone, but I'm not alone. If you just peek through these trees, what you will see are the high-rises of downtown. A little pond that all the residences surrounded doesn't look that much like a pond, but it is. You'll see the reflections there. Now, I am looking for something to inspire me for my nature journal today, and maybe this is it. I think these are black-eyed Susans. Okay, no, in fact, they are orange coneflowers, and I just looked that up. What I will do while I'm out here, let me just set you guys down, is, hopefully it stays here, I'm just on the edge of somebody's amazingly huge property. Look at this house. I don't know if you can see it all, but it's like got wings. It's gigantic. Must be nice, am I right? Let me extend this a bit here. So I'm not in their property. Not that I think they would care, you know, Toronto's not usually like that. People are not super aggressive about you being like on their lawn, drawing something, you know what I'm saying? If you were carrying on like a ding dong, I'm sure that would be different. But what I will do is I will just kind of whip out my journal like this, and I will sketch this in. And I've done so much nature journaling over the last over a year that I'm actually pretty quick with flowers at doing like a basic shape. I'll just go in there with my pencil and my eraser if needed, but I'll just quickly kind of draw in what I see. Just a very quick sketch, because I do like to keep moving, but it's also so nice just to take a second and be in nature, sketch in nature. You know, these are moving just the slightest bit as I sketch them. That's such a nice feeling. So with flowers, I'll often just draw a circle around it. This is not going to show very well, but I'll draw the circle that gives you the approximate shape, and then I'll go in and sketch the petals. So I'm about halfway done. I've got to fill in the rest of the petals. Okay, so I never pull out flowers when I'm out and about, but this is the one here that I am just sketching in, and I've just really zoned in on that, and I've also taken a picture of it so that I can finish the color at home. But yeah, I'll just be here and just be finishing up these different petals quickly. About 3 minutes later, that's my rough sketch. Obviously this circle has to be erased, but I'm in the mood to keep moving, so that is what I'll do, and then I would finish this off at home. As I pass this garden again, I think I'm gonna grab a picture of this and paint it. Even though I've definitely done this rose before, I will do it again. And one thing I won't hesitate to pick up is fallen leaves, especially when you're not in a park, you're just out and about, walking along the streets. Look at this. The way I understand it is you're not supposed to mess with the ecology of parks by taking things out of the parks, but you know, if it's just something that's fallen into someone's garden where it's basically on the sidewalk, that's fair game. How cool is that? Because it's imperfect. It's got the green in it, and it's got those two little spots. I love nature. It has always something that inspires me. visiting family for dinner. We just parked, and I have, of all crazy things, my embroidery kit with me. Imagine if I showed up to a friend's house for like a social dinner with my embroidery. Actually, they would probably expect that from me. But I feel like with family, the rules are like slightly different. You can get away with embroidering and chatting. So that's what I'm doing this beautiful, beautiful evening. Feeling very lucky to get this last gust of like lovely summery weather. For those of you who know Toronto, this is the Yonge and Eglinton or Yonge and Davisville area. These are the subway tracks. I wonder if we're gonna spot a subway going as we cross. Well, that was a really wonderful day, and we're ending off in the spot that we started, which is here in my bedroom. I'm going to end the evening as I often do, speaking of rabbit holes, which has kind of been the theme of this video. And this is my reading time. I definitely love to make sure I carve out a bit of time, either right before I go to bed or sometimes in the later evening when I just don't feel like watching any TV. I'll spend even like 20 minutes just reading. So the book that I've got out, I don't even know if it's good or not. I've only read like a couple pages so far, but the title, wow. The Courage to be Disliked. The Japanese phenomenon that shows you how to change your life and achieve real happiness. Don't we all want that? Okay, so a lot of people have been talking about this and how formative it has been. So if you've read it before, let me know if you liked it or what you thought of it. And so that's me for the night. I really thank you for spending your time here with me. If you've gotten to this point, you're a real one. I know that this was definitely one of the longest videos I can remember making, but it was a real joy to share my life with you. And I so appreciate you. And now with that said, I will sign off here and we'll see you in the next video.